Hello, fellow human. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and let's get on with your daily dose of r/I don't work your lady stories. To the first one. I know this is the wrong number, but I still don't believe you. I used to get frequent calls on my mobile phone asking for, let's call him Mr. Wong. That wasn't his name, but it was a Chinese name, and I'm Chinese too. So I'm allowed to make a Wong number joke. This was in 2014 or so. As far as I can tell, Mr. Wong had printed a business card, had some kind of flyer or ad or whatever with the wrong number. Namely, my number. It seems his potential customers or clients really did have my exact phone number, not just something close to it. Most of the time, people were apologetic when I explained what was going on. They got the message when I said I wasn't Mr. Wong, I didn't know Mr. Wong, and definitely didn't work for him. There was some kind of mistake with his business info. Most people caught on pretty quick, and it was all good. But there was this one guy. He kept calling back, and he refused, absolutely refused to accept my explanation. In the end, it went something like this. Guy, oh look, just tell him that, Me, sir, this is my phone. I don't know him. I don't know how to reach him. You've got the wrong number. Guy, is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Me, well, yes it is. But that is not... Guy, then I've got the correct number. Stop telling me I've made a mistake. Me, I'm not saying that, sir. I'm sure you dialed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just that the number you have isn't right. I think he's been giving out mine by accident. Guy, no, that can't be it. Me, well, I'm not sure what to tell you. That's it. Guy, did you change your number? You've got Wong's old number. Me, no, sir, definitely not. Guy, you got a new line, and what is your phone company? They gave you Wong's number. Me, no, I'm sure that isn't it. But even if it was, Guy, those telecos shouldn't be doing that. Me, well, Guy, you should tell them they gave you Wong's number. Me, I've had this phone number for years. Guy, no, that can't be. This is Wong's number. When did you get this number? You must have changed your number. Now, at this point, I was vaguely incredulous. I mean, the guy's finally acknowledged he's got the wrong person, and yet he's still questioning me? I probably should have just hung up, but... Me, sir, that is none of your business, but fine. I've had this number for 15 years now. Guy, that is not possible. Wong. Me, 3 years of school, 3 years of army, 6 years in my uni, 2 years of work. No, you're right. That is 14 years, not 15. Sorry. Guy, but who had the number before? It must have been Wong's number before. He must have had it before you. I swear I'm not embellishing. He really asked me that. It was a ridiculous question. I'm not responsible for the ancient history of my own number. Looking back, I think maybe he wanted me to admit that maybe someone else had the phone number in the past so he could claim he was right, or something. But as it happened, me. Well, unless Mr. Wong is a woman and my mother, I don't think so. Guy, but... Me. She got this line around 1995 for the office. I took over the account afterwards. Guy, but maybe it was Wong's. Me, this number used to be attached to a Nokia with an antenna we had to pull out. Guy, but... Me, sir, my family had this number since 1990s. We are probably the only ones who have ever had it. Even if Wong had the number, like once, he's given you a number that is 20 years out of date. Guy, I guess I've got the wrong number? Me, you've got the wrong number. Guy, okay, sorry. Me, no problem, have a good evening. Well, at least I won, I think. I don't get calls for Mr. Wong anymore, so there's that, at least. You know what they say, when you argue with an idiot, everybody loses. On to the second story. I'm actually here to attend your party, not to cater it. I forgot this happened to me years ago when I was still in high school. It's not a fabulous story, but it still gives me a chuckle what a beard can do to your apparent age. During this time, I was still in touch with an old friend who had moved to a different school. I was conveniently able to see him sometimes through a distant learning class along with his new friends. One of his new friends was kind enough to invite me to their birthday party. It was a very fancy one, so we were asked to wear formal clothing. I obliged because being a hipster and all, layers made me look less fat. So, I decked myself out to look super professional, groomed my beard and had the nice milady vibe going. I was untouchable. Sarcasm. I got to the address and boy howdy was the place they rented fancy. I was rather early, so I placed my stuff in the corner. The host and I chatted for a bit while we waited for everyone else to come. It wasn't long and eventually a cluster of people came in. Caterers, other teens, and a DJ. I started to blend in, chat with others, and get friendly. The party was very nice. I decided to sit by a bunch of ladies I never met while we ate. We'd talk about adult stuff, a bunch about dumb political stuff, and acting. I got up and started asking people what they wanted, and started just handing out drinks. Just trying to be friendly. I kept getting weird looks from the kids' parents, no clue why. Party keeps going. I play pool, eat, and dance to some Take On Me by Aha. I lose my voice from screaming. You know how parties go. This keeps me on while I still notice the parents overlooking me constantly. I started to ease down cause I was getting uncomfortable. Finally, the end of the party arrives and there's a bit where the family had a projector with all these family photos of them in it. It was time to take it out and show everyone how gushy and cute the family was or something. One of the hosts, the mother, comes up to me and said, "Could you at least grab the projector for us?" And I got very confused. I asked her what she was talking about and she rants, "You have barely done anything all night. You could at least grab and set up our projector." And it finally connects. This chick thinks I've been screwing around all night instead of catering the party. I just laughed and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm here to attend your daughter's party. What do you think I was here for?" She gets beet red. At this point, everyone else is looking and realize what is going on too. The daughter had to come over and explain that I was a guest. I quickly went to use the restroom to get out of that interaction, cause screw that. I wasn't bothered for the 30 minutes that were left of the party though, plus I got a girl's number, so bonus? Well, you should have had a tip jar for handing out drinks. The third story. Just a reminder that not everyone is a jerk. Yesterday, I ran to the store to do some last-minute Thanksgiving shopping, and while running around trying to find my items, an elderly lady says, "Excuse me," from behind me. I turned around, and she asked, "Do you work here, sir?" To which I replied, "No, sorry." And she said, "Thank you," and disappointingly turned around. And I said, "But I can probably help you find what you were looking for," and proceeded to tell her where she could find the butter and some of the other items she was looking for. She was very grateful and very kind. I just wanted to post this to remind everyone that not everyone is crazy, and some people just need some help. Stay wholesome, Reddit. Not funny or entertaining, but I sure do love posts like this. They're sweet and very human. The fourth story. You're not black. I was working in a college town that had a really amazing diverse food scenes. One day during lunch, I walked over to my favorite Ethiopian restaurant. It was a super relaxed environment inside. They were kind of nestled into a shopping plaza, had dim lighting, and had a mismatching dining room tables and chairs that kind of made you feel like you were at a cool aunt's house. You just knew that you were going to have the best meal of your life based on all that. When you first walked in, there's a beverage cooler directly to the right of you and a counter with a cash register on the kitchen side and the menus on the patron side. Then the random tables plus chairs were kind of haphazardly scattered about. The ladies who worked there knew me and my typical order, so after paying, I hung out fiddling with my phone on the patron side of the counter. Adding this crucial detail only because it comes in later, but at the time, this other patron, who's white, let's call her DG for dumb girl, enters. I'm the only other non-POC in the establishment, a pale patsy ginger. So the dumb girl walks in and kind of start hovering by the beverage cooler looking around. This is more of one of those places you walk in, order at the counter, and seat yourself. If there's no one at the counter, then it would make sense to wait around up front or seat yourself and wait. The main waitress has just gone back to the kitchen to get my food, so I was awkwardly standing in the front of the menus and kind of just assumed she knew the flow of things here. In the dumb girl's defense, I was wearing the all-black clothes, kind of the typical wardrobe for a waitress. I finally acknowledged her after she started signing and tapping her foot, and asked if I was blocking her way to the menus. She responded with a very catty, "It took you long enough. You're just standing there on your phone, ignoring a paying customer. Do you want my business?" I was totally caught off guard and didn't say a word, just slid over a menu to her. I guess I could understand her being confused, but again, this was by no means a fancy place. Right after she said that, the waitress walked out from the kitchen with my food in the bag and told me to have a nice day. The looks on DG's face switched from embarrassment to confusion to annoyance until she finally looked at me and responded with, "Well, yeah, that makes sense. You're not black. Why would someone like you work here? That's what we get for coming to a place like this, right?" And then she laughed in that way that white people do sometimes when they're trying to get other white people to agree with them on something sort of racist. It made me uncomfortable and didn't make sense anyway. I just said, I don't know what you mean, and walked out to my car. I ended up asking the main waitress about DG the next week. Apparently, the dumb girl sent her food back twice, saying that it was too spicy, and ended up demanding a comped meal. Needless to say, I never saw DG again. "I don't know what you mean" is a great response to those kind of jokes usually. Good one, OP. The fifth story. Apparently, I'm employee of the month at the DMV. I must have a certain look about me because I get asked for help often while out and about. Must be the 20 years in the service industry or something. There's a grocery store that I frequent, sometimes daily, to pick up supplies for work. I'm at the point now where I just point people where they need to go. Sometimes I'll get a funny look when people eventually realize I'm just there shopping. My favorite ever happened at the DMV. There were approximately 400 people in the waiting room, so after receiving my number, I decided to go out and wait in my car for a while and come back. As I was walking out, an old man was walking in. He looked around and gave me a whistle. He zeroed in on me as I was walking past and asked, "I hear they have a machine here where you can renew your tags." I looked over, smiled, and pointed him to the machine, and he went and got in the line. I went out to my car, sat a while, read a bit, and decided to go back in to use the bathroom and check on my number. When I walked back in, the old man was standing in the lobby looking at the desk of workers, utterly confused. He turned and saw me walk back in and said, "There you are! Where are the people who teach you how to use this machine?" I looked at the mile-long line to the check-in desk, the confused guy, and the screen that showed my number was a long way off and thought, screw it, I'm not doing anything. I led him back to the machine and started helping him put in his info. He starts rambling about technology and how they made things so hard these days, and why do they make it so difficult to get help? And why is everyone at the DMV so unhappy? Because they make everything so hard, etc, etc. By this time, he's all set up and his tags are on the way. I tell him to have a good day. I grab my number out of my pocket to check the screen again, and he looks at me and says, "You don't work here." "What the? You don't work here? I was wondering, why were you so nice? Didn't make sense, and now it does. Well, thank you." As he was walking out, I could hear him telling the security guard about how they should really get someone to help with the technology, and how that girl is the best worker here and she doesn't even work here, etc. So at least I know if my life ever takes a turn, there will always be a place for me at the DMV. Well, thank you for being a helper. We always need more people like you. The sixth story. Target Karen gets what she deserves. I was wearing a red shirt and tan slacks when I get into Target and got mistaken for an employee. Got yelled at for not doing as I'm told by some lady, so she screamed at me. Like she had grabbed my shirt, hands on my purse, and yelling in my face. So mid-yell, I fake sneezed into her open mouth and said I was waiting for my test results still. At the time, the plague hadn't gotten to the States yet, time frame wise. She tried to have a seizure and a heart attack at the same time, and I think her operating system just crashed. She just froze, like no sound, just frozen. The death shriek shortly after was music to my ears though, not gonna lie. Oh, must say, you have a swift and evil mind. I appreciate that. The seventh story. I got mistaken for a child trafficker. Not quite your usual I don't work here lady story. Just for a bit of background, I was on a camping trip with a scouting group for people aged 14 to 18. There were about 13 children and 3 adults there if I remember correctly. We had a minibus with a trailer on the back to hold our kid. We had just gotten back from the trip and had arrived at the scout hall to drop off the kid. We formed a sort of conveyor belt system to move stuff around, and I was at the front of the conveyor belt. We were about halfway through moving everything when a man who looked as though he had probably taken every drug known to man on the daily came up to me and grabbed me by the shoulder. Just for context, I'm pretty tall, almost 6 feet, but I'm very skinny and I'm often mistaken for an adult because of it. He dragged me over and asked me if we were child trafficker, which obviously stunned me. I couldn't process how someone could just assume that. He then asked me. This time I just told him, "What? Of course not." He, unlike most people on this subreddit, seemed to get the message for once and apologized. He told us that if we were, he probably would have beaten us up. Of course, my first thought was that, why on earth would someone do that? Of course not! That is exactly what a child trafficker would say. Get him! On to the 8th story. It's not my job to haul scrap metal at night, but I did it anyway. It was around 9 p.m. I had just sat down on the couch with a cup of tea after an hour-long struggle to get my 6-year-old to go to bed. All of a sudden, there's a tremendous noise out the front of my house. It sounds like the world is ending, a metal apocalypse. I leap up and run up to the front window and squint down into the darkness out of my usually quite blue-collar suburban street. There across the road is my neighbor Johnny. He's dragging a 12-feet-long metal beams along the sidewalk, resting one end on the top edge of a big K trailer, then trying to slide the beams down and inside. The noise is unbelievable. I watch for a couple of minutes in disbelief and growing anger as I notice about 50 more metal beams stacked behind him. This is not going to finish anytime soon. Then, to top it off, my son wakes up and starts making a fuss. I grab a piece of paper and write an angry message at Johnny in big block letters. My neighbor Johnny is profoundly deaf, hence the written note. He has lived in that house for all of his 50 years and alone since his mother died a decade ago. He hasn't done so well by himself, I think. His house has fallen into despair, and he has hoarded so much scrap metal it has filled his property and flowed over the outside of his wall, encroaching on the sidewalk. I know the mess drives the other neighbor crazy, but I don't particularly care. It makes me feel guilty about not mowing my lawn as often as I should. Apart from the eyesore, he's never bothered me in any way. I've barely had anything to do with him at all over the years, to be honest. At 9 p.m. last night, however, I was spitting mad. Another huge boom echoes outside. Fantasies of physical violence flash through my mind. The blood rage takes me. I grab my angry note, put on my slippers, and storm out of the door in my pajamas straight over to him. I'm a tall, heavy-built, pretty mean-looking guy. Johnny is about 5'5" and looks like a shrunken version of Zach Galley. My appearance startles him, and he looks up at me with a gurred face, still holding one end of the middle beam, sweat running down his cheeks. I'm about to unleash on him. I look down at this small, hairy, deaf hobbit man in front of me. I look back across the street at my son watching us from behind the screen door. I look at the angry note in my hand. My anger evaporates and is replaced by something else. I feel ashamed. I consider how he's been deaf since birth and may not even realize how noisy he's being, and I feel even more ashamed. I shove the note in my pocket before he sees it. I point to my chest, then do a weightlifting motion with my hands. His face brightens and he nods excitedly. I walk over and grab the one end of a beam. He grabs the other. I start helping him haul these 90-pound metal beams into his trailer. After 20 minutes, I'm breathing hard and we finally get the last one in. I feel him squeeze my arm. He's smiling up at me and mouths "thank you," the only word we exchanged the whole time. I nod and go home. A couple minutes later, I'm in the bathroom washing the dirt and sweat away and my son comes in. He's angry and confused, like a disappointed mob that didn't get to watch the hanging they were promised. "Why didn't you shout at him, Daddy? You should have taught him a lesson. He's an idiot." Idiot being the strongest word in my son's vocabulary. I sit him down on the couch and put my arm around him, cuddle up. I talk to him about the different ways I could have handled that situation, and about neighbors and helping and being kind, and about how you meet all types of people in your life, and the story of the scar by my eye, and how much I regret the times I've been aggressive in my life. He's silent afterwards and seems to be deep in thought as I carry him back to bed. I drove past Johnny today, and he waved and did a bicep flex at me, like, "Hey, aren't we the two metal-hauling muscle men of the street?" I couldn't help but chuckle. Well, you, OP, just made a great example to your son and to the rest of us. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.